Bad boy, bad boy, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boy, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? There you go, folks. We've got the story tonight. Social Security Department sends FBI to my home again. And well, this is the second time they've actually sent men with badges to my home. A few years back, they did this, and I've talked about this on the show about being stalked by the State Patrol, who was sent there by the Social Security Department. Well, once again, I've had them send men with guns to my home again over some faxes that I've sent to the SSDI department regarding an overpayment that was made 3 years ago during the work comp offset, where I was forced to be my own lawyer during the work comp offset process. But anyways, I will let my back then I was unable to record the conversation with the police officers. I share about it, but I didn't have a copy of the recording. They have a copy of it, but they never do share it. Nonetheless, this time I was able to share with these officers what was going on and what's happening and how I'm the one who's being harmed and other people in America are being harmed by the same situation and nobody's addressing our issues. And I was glad to speak with these officers because they listened and understood and comprehended everything I had to say. So I was able to school them a little bit on what is really going on for injured workers in America and some SSDI recipients in regards to these overpayments. Um, and also how injured workers have had a war waged on us and we're being cost shifted off to the SSDI system. Nonetheless, I will share with you all what I shared with the police officers, and I also want to share with the music community that this is what is happening in my life. And part of my mental health therapy is to share with the world through song and dance and political romance the harm that's being done to me and others. And part of doing that is sharing part of the story along with songs to get my voice heard to basically my injured slaves who have been harmed as we try to get our voices heard. Because slaves throughout history have tried to bang on their drums to get their voices heard. And that's basically what my mental health therapist is having me do. Is she basically has me sing kumbaya rather than yell and scream, as I'm forced to be my own lawyer even though I've been declared delusional. It's frustrating. Anyways, I shared this with the police officers and the FBI agents or whatever they were, and I will let you be the judge, and you hear from me explaining to them how I'm trying to get my voice heard through song rather than making any threats or idle threats, and as I'm forced to have to litigate in a bureaucratic system that is very good stacked against those who are pro se. You be the judge. Here's the officers. I want to add one more thing that the officers that were here were not here intimidating me at all, and actually were very listening to me very intuitively and were learning from me. And so I did not feel intimidated by them personally at all, and actually felt like they might hopefully somehow convey my message back to authorities of how people are being hurt and harmed, as opposed to what the other state patrol officers did, tried to tell my judges that anything that wasn't the truth, basically. So I'm hoping these officers seem to be more intuitive and more willing to listen, and they're federal, they're federal agents, and so I'm hoping that maybe they will, talk about to somebody about this war on our injured workers. Now, Washington State is one of 33 states fouling our injured workers and cost shifting us off to the SSDI. So I wanted to make a clear point that these officers were actually very good and that they were attentive and willing to listen, and they could have been jerks to me and put me in jail if they truthfully wanted to. And they didn't, because they're willing to be helpful. They're willing to get the voice heard, our voices heard, and they know I'm trying to get mine and other people's voices heard as well. That have been locked out since 1972 for the most part for our injured workers on our federal injured workers issue, because nobody will speak up for us except for, anyways, I won't go into detail because I did with the officers, and you can hear what I had to say to them, and they told me to keep trying to get my voice heard and to keep doing it peacefully and through, song, dance, and political romance, and to try and, keep with my therapy. And part of my therapy is to keep singing out and try to blow the whistle on the harm done to me and others. So, anyways, was this with the officers? And like I said, I think the officers were good. I think though they themselves are being used as tools by people at the Social Security Department to try and put people away that they don't want to address the harm being done to them, or they're setting up with these overpayments so that they get agitated and they know they're being forced into being their own lawyers to a point that these people make idle threats that then they can put them away and they don't have to give them their benefits no more. So it's a little frustrating. So I'm hoping this time around, as I spoke to these officers for 45 minutes or 50 minutes out here, and it's a long video, but do listen to it to the end because these are federal agents that I'm explaining to them the harm done to me and others. This is me getting mine and the injured workers' voices and SSDI recipients' voices heard across this nation. Out.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Doc. For a second.
No problem, thank you.
Then you must get cool, bad boy.
Hey, sir, how's it going?
Good.
Darren, correct?
Correct, sir.
Hey, my name is Brian Daisel. I'm a special agent with the Federal Protective Service, Department of Homeland Security.
Sure.
And this is my partner. His name is Inspector Eldridge.
DSHS.
The Department of Homeland Security.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we're here in reference to the Social Security Administration. I know you've been contacting them.
Yeah, I'm supposed to have an appointment with them at 1:30 today.
Correct. Yeah, that's still on. We just wanted to come out here and talk to you and kind of get your side of the story on things.
Sure, I've emailed lots of stuff. I faxed lots of faxes.
Yeah.
I actually faxed everything to LNI, everything I faxed to SSDI, so they've got a copy of everything I faxed to them at LNI as well.
Yes, sir.
And so, yeah, what else more can I say? Except I'm going to do my appointment, and I was actually going to try and be calm during the appointment today with my plan.
And that's kind of why we're out here right now. Some of the documents that you faxed over had some statements and things on there which caused them concern, so they called us.
Okay.
And basically, we just want to come out here.
I don't mean them no violence. I mean them no harm, no intent, none of them. There was nothing threatening in those documents, none whatsoever. Only thing I am trying to get heard is my side of the story and the truth as well, which I'm also trying to get our lawmakers like Senator
Do you mind
Patty
if I
Murray.
take this off? I'm sorry.
You can take
Okay.
it off.
I'll sit back a little bit.
Have you been vaccinated?
I have an appointment,
I have
but I have not been
Well, then
vaccinated
you
yet.
take two more steps
All right,
back.
I'll take two more steps back.
He's been vaccinated, though. He no offense, that's a whole different
No, hey, man.
Although it is kind of a same issue, mine, because it's about safety, worker safety, and how we have unions that will stand up and fight against you being able to have your right to not get a shot, because when I want to stand up for injured workers and the state failing injured workers and us being cost shifted off to the feds to start with, nobody wants to talk about that issue.
You're right.
But anyway, so especially because my
And I got
unions
that
won't
from
represent me. Jason Call for Congress has called me unhinged when I've asked him to do what Senator Bernie Sanders says needs to be done. Patty Murray told us it needed to be done. Tom Perez told us it needed to be done. In 2015, we need the minimum federal standards.
Yeah.
And they have balked against it the whole time. They wrote us a letter which was placating my class of human beings, the injured workers, which we are a class of human beings, believe it or not. You get injured. We get thrown to the side. Anyways, I'll shut up.
No, it's all right. No, I understand that.
But no, my plan with Bill, and that's another frustration because it's just Bill going to possibly deduct wages from the food in my mouth of my babies today, and he's only using his name Bill, which I can understand. I'm a complicated guy, but on the other hand, if a judge was to sentence me to prison at some point, they would use their names. They wouldn't hide behind some assumed name like Bill. And I never harmed anybody physically. I've been deemed nonviolent every time I have been sent to jail 3 times over this ordeal. Over the last 6-7 years, it's been a 10-year ordeal since I got hurt on the job at University of Washington in 2011. And it's been nothing but a war ever since, a litigated war with pens where people harm you and hurt you and then hide behind the immunity of state, med, tort, and laws, where the doctors hide behind immunity, where we got, anyways, it gets complicated when I get too far into it.
Right on.
But what I want my lawmakers is to start, like Senator Patty Murray's, who's saying now she's going to stand up for the boys out at Hanford, and that's another thing we got going on is, Bob Ferguson, the Attorney General, stand up for injured workers at Hanford and blame the feds for what's going on there. But when the feds say the state is failing injured workers, Bob says nothing about that. Neither does the state lawmakers, because they don't want the minimum federal standards. But yet, if we had some of those minimum federal standards, even the feds at Hanford would have to adhere to those minimum federal standards that nobody wants to put on the table that workers have needed since 1972, when we were told we need this, but nobody since then has put it on the table for the workers of America.
Okay. I can see that you're an advocate for, passionate and an advocate
and as
for
part of my mental health, I do
workers'
see mental
rights.
health, and tomorrow's my mental health therapist. I see her once a month. I am tied in with CMAR. They also have a copy of my mental health record. I sent them my current copy of my mental health record, which says delusional, which says, depression, all the other stuff. I don't want to take it too long.
No, you're good. I just was checking the time just to make sure I know when I was here.
Okay, so I'm still, I don't want to cause nobody no harm.
Okay.
And I want to do the process, and I'm trying to be a part of the process, but I'm also kind of showing folks that the process isn't really working in the favor of the workers, it's working in the favor of everybody else that seems to be in a position to hide behind pins and immunity if they harm us, yet we have no regrets.
On with workers,
Right, and we have no, well, it's not just workers, it also can get even deeper when you get into the fact that poor people can't get lawyers. I mean, the 3 times I have been to jail, I've had to get a pro bono lawyer because I'm too poor, but in civil matters, I can't get a lawyer to represent me, and most of us can't get lawyers, especially when it comes to the SSDIO overpayments, because the lawyers won't take our cases, so we can't get people to represent us, so I'm forced to be a lawyer again, even though in my L&I case, the state gave me a pro bono, gave me basically a lawyer because I put in an ADA request for American with Disabilities request, to have them be my lawyer, because how can I be my lawyer if everybody's calling me delusional? Well, how can I represent myself if I'm delusional? So I requested a lawyer, and they said, well, do that, we'll give you a prima facie case. And a different judge, because the judge who gave me it to, he said he was the ADA accommodations judge, so since he granted me that, he couldn't stay my judge and give me a new judge. So anyways, long story short, I was saying to the federal government, well, if the state told me that, then why is the federal government continuing to make me be my own lawyer in these overpayment cases?
Yeah. When
apparently SSDI judge granted me my stuff based on these conditions. So anyways, then they're going to get me into the fact that we sent State Patrol here about 3 years ago here that said they lied about my conditions when they tried to tell the SSDI judge I didn't have mental health conditions that I've had my whole life, which was a whole nother issue. But, and there's 3 years and I can't sue them on that. I don't know that anybody can, but it's kind of frustrating for me when I was standing up for you guys and for officers in the state of Washington, because you didn't have PTSD coverage when I started this a few years back, with your post-traumatic coverage. Now you do. But you didn't when I started this battle a few years back. And that was part of what I used to say in the beginning. You guys aren't protecting the frontline soldiers. And then all of a sudden, all the states slowly are starting to give you guys PTSD coverage slowly, state by state by state. But it's still hodgepodge, it's state by state by state. If you transfer to a state that doesn't have it, you might not have it in another state. It's not fair that an officer should be covered with PTSD coverage in one state, but in another state he's not covered with that. We should be covered in every state with PTSD coverage for officers, or even a 7-Eleven employee who may see somebody blown away next to them. We should all maybe have some PTSD coverage when it comes to being harmed or injured on the job.
Yeah.
So but I'm trying to stay calm at all. And my therapist is saying to sing, and I'm trying to do it through music and on YouTube. You can Google me. I'm on YouTube trying to sing and dance. I have a bunch of videos on YouTube that also try to explain what's happened to me. Mm-hmm. My therapist is telling me to do it that way, to do it through song and dance instead of rage and yelling on the phone. Mm-hmm. I'm trying not to communicate with them on the phone as much as possible because I get all worked up when they start getting bureaucratic with me. Let's put it that way. Yeah. and right now they're not allowing factual evidence. I feel that this overpayment isn't my kids. It should have actually been charged to me because it was after the fact. They gave me this payment first to my kids, and then it was like a couple months later I'm on my work comp case, and then they gave me like $30,000, and then I'm done. And then like a year later, SSDI comes along and says, we're going to put me through an appeals process and say you owe $22,000. And I said, oh my God, I even went to jail during that time. Mm-hmm. But even during that, I was still fighting that and all worried, oh my God. And I got done with it. They put $17,000 in my account. And I was like, well, what was that all about? But okay, I thought we were done when work comp offset unit said we were done and they gave him the settlement. Uh-huh. But anyways, so okay, $17,000, you guys made me go through hell, and that wasn't worth $17,000 for the 8 months worth of another appeal after already being put through work comp hell for 8 years. But nonetheless, another year goes by here, and they come back up, and now they say, oh, you owe $20,000 for your kids. And I'm going, well, why didn't you say that when you gave me the $17,000 a year and a half ago?
Right.
Sorry.
No, I get it. I understand.
So, anyway, I think they're saying there's nothing we can do about it as the process, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, I don't know this. And if anything, the payment that I got from me and my kids said we were entitled to it. We were entitled to it. That's why they can't call it fraud, because we didn't do anything fraudulent. And they're saying, oh, it's not your fault. Well, if it's not my fault, why are you coming to take food from my babies now? Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? And so I told them in the other appeal that I did, and they keep making me do the appeals, and I said, it's like you gave us a COVID blanket 3 years ago, and you come back 3 years later for your blanket that you gave to my kids. It's like you did with the Indians. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't anyway.
I understand your frustration. And
it's only $20,000. Here's the other thing. It's only $20,000. So it's not worth nothing. It's but in the grander scheme of things, I do have. If the SSDI kicks me off, I have a lifetime state pension. That's what the LNI guy says. Mm-hmm. Well, even if they kick you off, Darren, we have to pay you in full. So right now, SSDI pays me $2K, LNI pays me $1K, and that's the whole cost shifting bit. And that's why I was like, well, LNI should have paid this thing in full, but because I won the SSDI, which the other ones waited me out and pushed me off to start with, because they starve you out in the hopes that they're cost shifting this off to those guys. That's why it was frustrating. Well, why did the State Patrol use the State Patrol when the feds say the states are the ones felling us and cost shifting off to those guys to start with? Anyways, if you watch the YouTube videos, it's very explanatory. Some of the stories are really good, and it's not all me explaining the stories. I use other people and news footage that I put together that says fairly well and truthfully what's going on, that we have a war on injured workers, and we have certain people that are able to carry out that war on us and then hide behind immunity. And that's what's happening to people. And they're being purged to the streets. They're being pushed into homelessness. And many people can't get lawyers to fight back. And that's kind of where I circle back down. But I can go on and ramble on forever, so I'll shut up.
Well, I appreciate it. And then
I'm not going to hurt nobody. I have no weapons. I've never had weapons in my life. And that's everything. I haven't had a weapon since I was like 18. Before 18 years old, I was like 16 with a pellet gun. Okay. And I've never had a gun after since 18 years old.
And I read that you had wrote that you have never owned a firearm.
Yeah, I've never had. But every time I go to jail, I've been to jail 3 times over this. Over yelling and screaming. Uh-huh. And I get down there and they put me in the non-violent unit because I'm being non-violent, because I never physically ever hurt or harmed anybody. Mm-hmm. The one getting hurt and harmed here is me. Yeah. I try to say that every time. And now I don't even have teeth telling them that. Okay. And the money that they were saying before, because they have me tell them how much money I have, was I got the stimming money, mm-hmm. and I used that for my teeth. So any money I did have was only stimming money. It wasn't any of the money they gave me from 3 years ago, because you're not even giving me enough to live on with the $3K a month I live on. Uh-huh. To support a family of 5 alone as a sole provider.
And your kids still live with you then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are their ages?
I have one's 21, one's he's going to college. Okay. And then I got a 7-year-old, and she's a girl, and then I got my 15-year-old. He's in high school. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So
my daughter's going to be 7 soon.
She got, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I love my daughter, and that's why I stood up and made the fight, because I don't want them to have to go through what I went through. That's the other kicker in my story, and when you learn about it, is my father was hurt on the job when I was young, my stepfather, and his arm was cut off. It was kind of a long story, and I witnessed that. And they put him through hell, 9 years of hell when I was a kid, and I went through like 9 to 11 years of school going, as we traveled around through 3 different states, him trying to fight SSDI. He didn't win his work comp, but he won his SSDI in the end. And he worked for 30 years as a logger and a truck driver and tree faller and all-around boxer. He fought Joe Frazier and all that kind of stuff. He was bigger than me a little bit. Mm-hmm. But and they just totally destroyed his life and our lives. And now, 40 years later, here they were doing it to me again, and all I did was get injured on the job and should have been taken care of, because the other 2 times I was hurt, they took care of me. They got PT and put me back in. This time, when they knew I wasn't going to be able to do the 50-pound job, they didn't want to open up both. And vocational services was never open to me, and I was told I was too depressed to have both opened up. Yet when the state patrol came to stop me from getting my SSDI, they were saying he's not depressed at all. Now I'm going, wait a minute. How can you all say I'm too depressed at this one level to not have vocational services up, yet my state patrol is telling the SSDI to deny my shit because I'm not depressed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something's not adding up.
And then as far as like the overpayments and stuff, I know you're appealing that right now, and that's what your phone call's about this afternoon, right?
Well, I'm in the process, but the process is rigged against us, and we can't get lawyers to help us, and that's the other thing, and I'm forced once again to be the lawyer. It's for my kids, because it's not at my overpayment, it's to the kids, what to say. If it was to me, I'd declare bankruptcy, and that's why I'm trying to say, well, it is kind of to me, probably was to me, because when it was given us to the kids, when they gave it to us, they were entitled to it at the time. 6 months later, they didn't give me no money for me at that time, because they waited until I wanted to work comp case or see if I was going to win or not win.
Yeah.
And then when I won, that's what I thought the SSDI work comp offset unit was supposed to deal with all of this.
Yeah.
And nobody did, because they don't communicate with each other.
Yeah.
The feds don't communicate with the state, and you end up chewed up in the process. Even the ones that have lawyers are getting chewed up with the said process. Even the ones who have lawyers in SSDI. When it comes to the overpayments, they're saying, well, we're not going to help you with the overpayment because there's no money for the lawyers to be made, because there's no back pay to be gotten.
Right.
And that's another thing. People don't care. The lawyers don't care if it gets strung out for 7 years, because they can go. I got back pay 7 years at SSDI, and the SSDI just said he would have went back all the way to 2011 if he could have, because I was screwed since I got hurt on the job and nobody ever wanted to open up. Anyway. And
as far as the overpayments go, which one of your children were they? As far as
that's 2 of my youngest kids.
So the 15 and the 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's frustrated me, and now I'm defending them. I'm their lawyer, and I'm delusional. I'm declared delusional. That's why I say I'm the delusional defender, because that's what I'm forced to be.
Right.
My own delusional defender, and that's what I said, well, why was it in the state did it, and I went to this and I asked for a lawyer, they gave me one, but when I asked for it for these guys, they sent me a thing for the pro bono lawyers, the pro bono lawyers, and they don't do overpayments.
Yeah, that, and I guess, because I was going to ask you about that, have you reached out to any SSA attorneys, but overpayments would be one thing, because they can't, obviously they can't charge you for that, because you're not getting any money back.
Right. I would have to pay out of pocket to have them if I wanted to try to get an attorney that way. So that's another thing brings me back to poor people don't have lawyers. And that's another thing is we have pro bono. That's way back to the beginning of our conversation here. How I've been in jail and you charge me criminally, boom, I got a lawyer. I'll clam up and shut up and say, give me a lawyer, and I'll talk to my lawyer, right? But in civil law, I have no help. I'm hanging out on a limb, and so is everybody else out here. Even when it comes to CPS having their kids taken away, when it has to dealing with other government programs, we are stuck being me.
Yeah.
And you guys have to come deal with us on the other end of it.
Yeah.
And so, no, I'm sorry, and I apologize for taking your time as always. But on the other hand, you may convey back to them a message to a certain degree that he's not creating. He's trying to get his voice, and he is creating, but he's trying to focus that craziness in a way that tries to get things fixed and addressed, so that people aren't like me, so that people aren't. We shouldn't be at war with each other when we get hurt on the job, and that's what I tell the Attorney General as well. You become my enemy, which in all of us, he goes to work for the employer. The state attorney general does. The state fights you, and it's just that shouldn't be that way. But anyway, I don't know. But the minimum federal standards is a way of fixing a lot of this. It's a way of policing the doctors so the doctors can, and that's another thing, that tort law, they're hurting and harming us. And my wife got hurt when miscarriage, and I went to jail over that whole ordeal with her doctor, because I didn't make long threats, but it come out that I did over the phone, but I ended up getting charged something. That was one of my very first crimes, because I was mad at her doctor because she went to have a miscarriage at the hospital, and they sent her back home to have it passed, because they have religious business up there, and it was a miscarriage going on, and they didn't want to, anyways. So they sent her home to have it passed, and then they called 2 days later and said she's probably going to have to go see a doctor and get a blood test, because we think from the x-rays we did that it's probably still in there and it's not going to pass on its own. It could kill her, and that could be death or life, so take her to a doctor. So we took her to this doctor that they told us to, and he said, took her vitals and said she's fine, nothing's wrong with her, and since you don't have insurance, we're not going to do the blood test on her. And that was what we were sent there from the ER, was to get a blood test. It ended up 2 weeks later, she was bleeding now, and I had to send her back to the ER, and they had to do a blood transfusion times 2 before they could give her the DNC, a full DNC.
Right.
And so, yeah, so anyways, I was mad at the doctor over that, because I was already fighting doctors lying to denying my back pain stuff. They're watering down our conditions. When we get hurt, they don't want to say it's a herniated disc, they want to say it's a sprain. Right. So that they don't have to cover you or open up vocational services, and then there your war starts. The battle of the doctors.
The minimum requirement.
Right. And our healthcare, that's the frustrating, is the healthcare, the HMO doctors are getting in on it, and they'll water down your conditions just as much as anybody else will, and you can't hold nobody to account because they're covered under that tort law. You complain to the med board, and the med board says, well, that's the standard of care. Well, then where do we go?
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, it's frustrating. And yeah, I started out with only a herniated disc that turned into mental health conditions, because basically nobody was opening a vocational service for me or putting back in when I had a good state job. I was a health certified nursing assistant at the University of Washington. I also worked over here for 5 years. At the hospital bedside. As a CNA, we were sent in to sit with the crazy people like me all day long. We're the ones that I picked up people, lift them up. I took care of officers. I took care of state patrol officers. And that's why it was frustrating when the ones came to me and I told them the story and what's going on, how we're being hurt, how we're being harmed. But yet, instead of conveying my story back to somebody that could help all of us, they went and told the SSDI judge to deny his case. And so anyways, I have that on YouTube, and all of it's on YouTube, and I sing country music, kinda, try to, and I share that on YouTube, and it all goes nowhere, because as soon as somebody, even if they like my music, as soon as somebody finds out you're fighting for injured workers, they go, you're stinking, but you go, well, I might as well be singing for syphilis. That's how I feel at this point.
And what's your...
but my mental health therapist says to keep singing Kumbaya. I'm going, but Kumbaya is getting nowhere. And sometimes it just this, but the Kumbaya doesn't. But I just feel like my therapy at this point is telling me to sing Kumbaya, but yet Seymour, when I want them to talk to Rick Larson and tell them where injured workers are being filled, their legislative liaison won't tell them my story about how I've been harmed. And then also my father-in-law was worked to death at Walmart. He was a Mexican immigrant, worked at Walmart, and he'd been there for 25 years. Got hurt on the job, and for 2 years they put him through hell after he got hurt, and sent him back to climb ladders at Walmart. He died one night after climbing the ladders at Walmart, and they gave us $7,000 for a rotated toe, but they fought him on it the whole time after he got his toe ran over, and he had diabetes. He was like 62, and all the doctors should have told him to go home and get his Ferrozole and go home and die. And the whole reason he was here was to work to get back to Mexico, and he would have done that if somebody would have told him, you're dying, dude. But nobody would, because everybody was trying to push a worker back to work to climb ladders at Walmart, because you can't, that's the goal, work to get the worker back to work. Even though that worker was dying, and these doctors had a responsibility and a duty to tell him that, then. Yeah. And so, anyways, but anyway.
What is your concern with Bill?
I like
Yeah.
that, Bill.
I can tell you don't
I
like
love
him.
that. It ain't so much Bill represents Bill, all of Bill, represents everybody Bill. And him being Bill at this point, and not even calling himself Bill Smith or Bill Jones or something, just to placate me would have been cool.
Mhm.
To hide behind that at this point, we have people getting out of prisons that are child molesters and rapists. They're getting SSDI turned on for them, and they have judges using their real names and people in their cases using their real names. There's no reason for Bill to say, "Oh, he fears me." You know, when the state chose that he didn't have any of these issues, so what does Bill have fear? But anyway, no.
So
I have nothing. I don't
was
care
one of
about
the-
Bill really.
Okay.
If it wasn't for this, Bill wasn't dealing with me. Bill would not have an issue with me.
Right.
Bill is and SSDI is coming after me 3 years after I was told by SSDI and work comp judges, Darren, go sit down and relax. After I even went to criminal court for making threats at Judge Ryan, you've probably seen that in the record.
Right.
Which me and Judge Ryan are on good terms. Is actually, as far as I'm concerned, we can't communicate, of course, because I have a restraining order. But he stood up for me at my criminal trial for yelling at him and said he understood what Darren had gone through, and the judge gave me leniency. She could have given me a year, and she gave me only 30 days because Judge Ryan said give him some leniency, and he was the one who the threats were against, basically, at that time, back then. And that was, like I said, that was years ago, and that was a year after that I had been picked up on those charges, because I didn't even know I had those charges against me, because I thought it was the Bernie Krats. Anyways, that was my delusional stuff there, because I thought it was the Bernie Krats, and that's a whole nother issue.
And you seemed upset that Bill wouldn't give up his last name. I don't know.
Well, I do a little bit, yeah, because that is frustrating. I do feel it's a legal document. It's a document where you're trying to extort $25,000 for food from the mouths of my kids from something that happened 3 years ago that I or our kids had nothing to do with the math. I have a GED, the work comp and SSDI offset unit were responsible for all that. I was not my own lawyer in that deal. Apparently, the state of Washington was supposed to be representing my best interest in this deal. Apparently, it's turning out not to be in my best interest to cost shift my ass off to where I have 2/3 in my nose put in my shit, where you have a rejuvenation every 3 to 7 to 5 years. I don't need that. If I'm told on this hand, over here, Darren, go sit and relax, you have a lifetime pension, don't worry about it. Also, on this hand, I'm told from the state that if I took $500 less per month, which I did, my wife would have a pension basically till she died, till after I die, till she dies at $2K a month. And I said, sure, I'll sign up. That's annuity. That's all based on the fact that I'm never going to be employed again. So the state has sold me another insurance project for $500 a month, all based on the fact that they know I'm never going to be employed again. They said if SSDI cuts me off, they would have to pay me in full, my SSDI pension manager tells me. That's what I'm saying to these guys. Well, then cut me off, so these guys have to pay me in full, and I don't have to deal with this stuff every 3 to 5 years with you guys sticking your nose on my ass.
That's all right.
And you guys may have to deal with these people someday. You think you don't now, but even the federal government has some issues with comp issues. But more of the state guys and more of the local police officers, when they have to deal with the municipalities, we have cops across this country fighting municipalities over workers' comp, and they're getting screwed. And so it's not just it's happening to everybody, and it's frustrating that and the lawmakers like Jason Call and even Bernie Sanders, who I would have hung a flag for. And that's the other thing, people are flying his flag. And Tamburini Borelli in our state here, I don't know if you know her, she ran as a Bernie Krat and ran for whole Washington, and that's what Tyler Vega and all of them are telling me, well, Darren, we can't put your issue on the table because we're pushing whole Washington and a single payer initiative, which I'm all cool with. But that you're pushing my issue off the table to put that issue on the table for 8 years now. And nobody's educating anybody about our issue. And so, yeah, it's just frustrating when Jason Cole and even Patty Murray told us this is what needs to be done, but everybody's remained silent about it, as I've been screaming about it to put it on the table now for 8 years.
And the reason why we came out here is just because some of the documents that you have faxed have had some,
higher, heavy tone.
Yes, exactly. And we just want to make sure that nothing's going to
And I apologize to them if some of it seems to be no, and sometimes it kind of does, sort of, because it isn't. It's what I'm trying to say. It isn't just me that you guys got to worry
Well,
about.
I can tell by coming out here and talking to you that you're very.
It's the other nuts out there that aren't pacifists, who aren't non-gun toting people like me, who's gonna sing kumbaya. Although the kumbaya, it gets frustrating for me. Like I say, when that's my therapy, and that's supposed to be the solution. Like I say, when they go tell the legislative liaison at my mental health treatment facility, won't go tell Rick Larson when she has Latino legislative day, and they all got together and we're going to talk about workers' comp and how it affects Latinos. When my father was worked to death, and they didn't want to address that issue on Latino legislative day, we're going to have a work comp guy come and talk about how Latinos don't have to fear reporting their injuries, and I agree with that to a certain degree. But on the other hand, we all have to fear reporting our injuries, because they will put you through hell rather than address it. If you're over 39 years of age, you're going to be put through hell rather than given your Band-Aid. And so that's out the gate. We're not given our Band-Aid, and instead we're being litigated against. And then like me, after 8 years of hell, fighting both places, at the end of it, and I even went to DVR during part of it, he told me to apply for my SSDI, the DVR guy. And I got a letter from him saying to apply for your SSDI. So the state headed me that way, and at the end of it all, they say, so it all starts out, nobody wants to give you a vote because we privatized vote on the state level. And nobody wants to give you a vote because it's privatized now. And so, but when you get after 8 years, you go through the process, you get to the other end of it, and they give you a ticket to work after you win. And the first thing, before I even got an SSDI check, I got a ticket to work. And it's like, well, it does me no good. I have 3 felonies now. It's been 8 years of hell of a battle I've gone through. Everybody knows I've fought a battle for 8 years. Nobody's going to hire you. Insurance companies won't hire you. Even if you can talk someone into hiring you, they're not going to hire you because their insurance will say, don't know. But anyways, but you cheated out a vote on the front end because we privatized our vote, and that's why we're not getting it. And I was told I'm too depressed to be vote. When maybe if I'd been vote, I might have been not as depressed. But they're holding up people and stopping them from that. And like I said, then we go through hell in the back end and say, oh, here's a ticket to work. Well, where was that fucking ticket to work from the get-go? I'm sorry. No worries. Language too.
It's all right. You're not gonna
offend you.
Offend me, yes. No.
Well, if you've read my emails, you're not even. No, sorry.
It's all good. There was.
I will stop. Anyways, my plan today was just to talk to this guy Jim and to be as nice as possible and to not yell and scream and to just hear him out, because basically he's gonna stab me with a knife, and I'm gonna say, go ahead and just stab me, get done with your shit, shoot away, and then I'll be done. And then I can move on to the next process, and next month he'll take $500 out of my kid's check, and I'll have some other step or process maybe to go through, I don't know. Or maybe today I can talk to him, and maybe he'll be able to have his little magic wand, I don't know, if he has a magic wand. You know, it's frustrating, and at this point, they shouldn't be doing this to somebody who has mental health condition.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, what if I was the guy that was the other one who it has ulterior motives, and that's frustrating. Anyway, and I tell him I'm toothless. I had my teeth taken out. I'm telling him I had to spend $4,000 of the stimmy money to get it taken out, so there's only like $3,000 left, and I only had $7,000 to start with, so I have no more money. And look, that's another spirit of this thing, and there's part of the waiver process is if you can't afford it, but that's going to take another 8 months, or they take your money away. So anyway, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm telling them I'm going to probably apply for food stamps. See how that works. I don't know that that's a losing money in any of the other processes, but it'll probably offset.
Well, I mean,
but the whole point is, that's why I'm saying also you hear in there that I'm asking for $5 million settlement, because I think it's frustrating that when I told State Patrol everything I'm telling to you gentlemen here today, as they were investigating me for SSDI, they didn't tell me they were investigating me for SSDI. They told me they were investigating me for some threats to legislators. And it wasn't why they were here. They were here to investigate, see how I walked, see how I talked, see how I moved, and what followed me to the gas station or to the grocery store, whatever, videotaped me. And like I said, out of that whole investigation, they went back and told the judges there was no issues. And the judges threw that away and gave no legal weight to the investigation because you guys, no offense, don't have sniffers
to sniff out if somebody has a mental health condition or if they have PTSD
Right.
from a 45-minute conversation when a doctor's been working with them for years and on medications or whatever. And anyway, so if you don't have ability to, you're not doctors and you're not PhD doctors, for psychological doctors, and you can't sniff out of, you don't have x-ray vision to see if somebody's herniated disc is giving them issues or not giving them issues, or their rotator cuffs or whatever it is. Now you can maybe catch them dumping the trash or something like that, but it's actually creating more harm to our mental health when we have this threat of investigation hanging over us as well, when people are starving us out to start with.
Yeah.
They're starving us out, and that's the whole thing, is delay, deny, and defend us, and that's how it works. All to, how's that? It's delay, deny, defend, to starve, stall, and settle. It's the 3 days and 3 S's. And instead, we should be getting 3 R's: repair, retrain, and retard, and we're not getting that. It's the 3 D: delay, deny, defend, starve, stall, and settle for peanuts. And I tried to do that work out with me. They gave me 18,000 and settled out. And I was ready. I was ready to go back to work. To hell with it. That's why I went up to DVR. I said, but I still need help getting my foot in the door after it's been 4 years not working. And somebody's saying, well, why weren't you working? You got nothing. You were a state employee, and what were you getting?
Yeah.
So I still needed DVR from some assistance, and DVR would not turn me on, said I had too many conditions with my mental health conditions and with your back and with felonies at this point, because of the felonies, that we could never help you get, our vendors would never hire you. Well, if your vendors aren't going to hire me, then that's when I went back to comp and said, hey, you threw me out to when nobody's ever going to rehire me, and you knew that. You guys were the ones who should have been helping me to start with. Anyway.
Yeah.
And that's why it's been a big war.
Yeah.
And that you harm my father, you harm my stepfather, and harm me. So 3 generations, my males in my family, working class men, have been harmed by this situation that's going on, that we've been told the solution for it is these minimum federal standards that nobody will put on the table, and haven't put on the table since 1972. I'm a little offended. Feel like my human rights are violated to a certain degree. Besides, I have some other issues with immigration and family members with that, but I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other issue. But I have a couple of issues. But the bigger issue is workers' comp and 3 generations of my family being hurt and harmed, and nobody stepping up to the plate to address that.
I do have a quick question on one of the statements that was one of the faxes. It was written that I will find you, Bill, and I will extract you from whatever you are extracting me from. What did you mean by that?
I don't understand that one.
Right here. So that's that one right there. I will find you, Bill, and I will extract you from.
I still can't see what you're saying. It's small.
Yeah.
Is it in writing or in print?
It's in print.
In print. I don't know. I will accept from you whatever you have extracted from me. Well, first off, how would I ever find Bill? It could be Tom, it could be Susie, it could be Rudy, it could be, how am I, you asking me that is not really appropriate, sir, because that question, how would I know who Bill is?
Well, I don't know, I just...
but anyways, I can understand what I'm not understand what that might be. No, I don't mean by that. No, I don't mean anything by that. Yeah. But it is frustrating, though, that we're still looking for one line out of all of that shit that I've written, that you might think that you might question me for that, when all this other stuff, is it going to get conveyed to any lawmakers? Is it going to get conveyed to anybody back there with some cojones up the line at SSDI? They can step in and rectify this and stop not just doing this to me. I'm not the only, there's another letter and all that we're writing. There's a document in there that says what I say, we're not getting lawyers, and there's a man's story in there, how part of it is all about how people are getting hit with these overpayments. There's a guy 70 years old in the article who's getting with an overpayment from 13 years ago from when his kid went to school, and he made sure, he even talked to SSDI that they would take off his, because you get less when the kids go off to, when the kids leave or whatever. And so here it is, the guy's 7 years old, they're coming back in from some overpayments that he did everything he was supposed to do, and they're putting him through it at 70 years old. And it's not just him, it's other ones, like I say, and then they're not being able to get lawyers.
Yours is not the only case that's like this, I'm sure.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I feel better about that, and thanks for letting me on. Those are the ones I'm fighting for, and Bill, tell Bill, help me, and that's what I've written to Bill too. If Bill is so concerned and so worried, why doesn't Bill step up and say said a bit about the cost shifting of Mr. Fonso to start with. What the conditions that are creating all of this crap to start with. Maybe he needs to talk about some minimum federal standards, or to his bosses that, this guy's trying to get a truth told here, that if these conditions were met and things were fixed, we wouldn't be dealing with these situations like this.
Yeah.
And also, that's why I'm still trying, like I said, there's also a demand in there, and that Bill's not wanting to address dollars in punitive damage as my own lawyer. I'm the lawyer here. Those are legal statements, legal documents, apparently. If I'm the lawyer, then why is my request and demand for, number one, to be a lawyer, to get a lawyer as an ADA request? I put that into Bill. He has an official ADA request into him from me to get, please grant me a lawyer the way the state did, so that I don't have to go through this or do this or have to yell and scream at him or get threats, blah, blah, blah. I could have a mouthpiece do my bidding for me.
Well, I will ask them about, as far as attorneys and stuff, for assistance for people.
They'll tell you what they told me. We're supposed to go to these guys over here, and they tell us that they don't represent us, to the pro bono people, and that's what I'm saying. That's a red herring. That's throwing something out there that's not helping any of those people. And this.
Yeah, it makes own attorney.
Yes.
Right on. And then just so you know, you do have an alternative service letter, right? Like a ban letter, so you can't go.
Oh yeah, I have restraining orders. That's why I've said in the writing. That's why I can't go to. I don't go to them.
Okay.
That's why I don't even call them as much as I can do it. That's why I try to just do things through faxes, because I don't want to do it on the phone and have somebody say I said something I didn't say. So that's why I try to do it off the phone. Also, you can't record people now the way you used to. You used to be able to record them, and now you can't record them without their permission. So, for me, I've had phone calls where I was entrapped. The first one was an entrapment, where I got invited down to Providence and arrested on the first one. But I was telling them that their doctor was the one that was harming me. And anyways, and then it ended up being and they wouldn't produce the phone call where they said they had arrested me on that first charge, one of the first charges, and I went to jail over it. My public defender, after I'd already been in jail for 35 days or 45 days, and we were going to court for me to basically get out, he said, well, I can't, I said, bring in the phone recording, where I say right in that phone recording, I'm not going to hurt person, place, or thing, I'm just trying to report what this doctor had done to me. And instead, that all got turned around, and they used what was said, they said I did in that phone call, but never produced the transcripts of the phone call that showed I was not hurting person, place, or thing in the phone call. And when I asked the public defender, or public pretender, whatever you want to call them, he said, and he was busy with a murder trial, but anyways, he said that at that point that he if I wanted to wait for the transcripts of the recording, I would have to go sit back in jail for 6 more months until he could get another trial. If I didn't take the plea deal, it was before me for that. So to me, it was kind of like, I don't know what you call that, but that wasn't good to start out the whole process for me, this whole thing, this whole ordeal. But throughout it all, though, I've still never been mad at police officers, even the state patrol doing what they did. I'm not mad at them. Actually, I'm more mad at them because there's a police officer in the state of Washington who's chief of police over in eastern Washington who was getting charged with fraudulent behavior or something because he or she was part of some calendar thing on the internet. I don't know if it's a lady cop or a guy cop, but they were in some photo shoot on the internet or a calendar contest, and so they said they were fraudulent in their workers' comp and they're going after them that. And yet this is the chief of police in one of our communities here in Washington. And so that's, to me, they're just going after that person. And nobody's standing up for her. And so anyway, I stand up for her a little bit. I kind of lost train of thought here where I was going with that. So I do that sometimes, sorry.
That's all right.
Anyway, so, I don't know. That's where I'm at. I'm not going to yell at him no more. Like I said, I was washing my hands at him. I was still trying to get my lawmakers or something. I'm still trying to get Patty Murray's office to do something. And everything I faxed to those guys, I faxed to Senator Patty Murray's office and Senator Cantwell's office as well. And, like I said, everything also has been sent to Illinois, and everything almost that I put to there has been put in my legal, legal file in Illinois. I can go in and I can see. And one of them's even been put in my pension file, where I ask them, I tell them that this is inhumane for the state to cost shift me off to these guys. How can you say I have a lifetime pension, yet continue to put me through turmoil and hell a man with mental health conditions because you cost me off to these other people. This cost shifting is violating my human rights under the state agreement that we made with the judge. You can't tell me it's over, we're done, and it's over, Darren. You have a lifetime pension, and by the way, here's a nothing buy. But, we're going to cost you 2/3 of you over here if you convince that other judge and you win that other case, which I won the SSDI first. But and that's the thing, I think the state was waiting for me to win the SSDI before they ever gave me their stuff on their side.
Okay.
And so it is true that the 33 states are failing injured workers. And the feds even say that. Even the work comp research, the U.S. Research Service, Congressional Research Service in 2020 come out and said we need these, and that's a nonpartisan group. They too say we need these minimum federal standards, yet nobody will put them on the table. And I have had unions, even on the internet, calling unions. Crystal Grange, he's a union. He was stringing me along because he was laughing at me and using me for a laugh line, basically. But he's a union guy, and he's with the unions. He was at the education union, anyway, the National Teachers Union. And they were tied in with them, and he's a national labor radio host. And I'm on YouTube with him, and I've got it all recorded. And at one point he says, yeah, Darren's crazy, but he's correct about the opioids, and because we can trace 25% of the opioid suicide-related deaths back to workers' comp. 25% of the opioid suicide-related deaths can be traced back to people beyond workers' comp in the state of Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
In one state. And then other states are pretty much, you can see what there would be a pattern. So if we can trace back 25% of the opioid-related deaths to work comp or even SSDI, or even further, then there's something wrong there. And I think this homelessness that we've seen arise here in our nation could coincide with the withdrawal down in benefits and this going. It took 8 years. Who gets in trouble for the first 4 years when I was denied, when I had the same facts and the same case and all the same issues? Why did it take me 8 years to finally get it? Yes, and do I have a conservative judge or a liberal judge? Did that come down and come into play? I don't know it. You see, it's frustrating, but all along the line, why did somebody all along the line not get into trouble? The state patrol that said I didn't have conditions that it turns out I do have, or the IME doctors who continue to make money and make bank off saying people who don't have these conditions, yet it turns out they do have those conditions. Who goes back through and says, okay, you don't get to do IMEs anymore. A drunk driver doesn't get to keep being wrong. Why does an IME doctor keep being wrong and filling his pockets? At some point, it's immoral for them to continue to enrich themselves of intently and knowingly being wrong, and especially when we should be leaning more towards helping humans instead of everybody working towards harming us when we're just supposed to get the banding, not litigated against.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm shutting up.
No worries. Hey, Darren, I appreciate your time and you taking the time to speak with us today.
Just some songs, so at least give me that much.
I'll use you again.
I'm getting better at it now, but anyway.
Right on. Well, I'll check it out. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And like I said, we're just here because some of the statements on the forms you send in raise some eyebrows and get people nervous. And just, as far as with your appointment today, good luck on that. And just try to remain calm and
I don't have meds right now either. That's another thing. I was on some meds, but I'm not on meds.
Okay.
But if the doctors don't want to get, they're all happy I'm not on them. Right. So I was like, oh my God. I can't win one way or the other.
As far as like meds and stuff, your doctors don't want you on it, but is that something you still want to be on?
No. Actually, that one was, I don't know if it was COVID or what was going on, but I was starting to get anxiety and it was really bad. No, but I was on it for like 4 years. I was it was Seroquel, and I was total combatant saying, give it. Everybody should be on it. Right. And it does help you sleep, especially when they do this to you, because every time they do this to me, I don't sleep again at night. Now I'm on Benadryl and everything, because all night you're thinking, how am I going to do it? What am I going to do here? Who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to send this to? Because I have no way to defend against myself. I'm a pro se defender. That's why I'm sending stuff to lawmakers. But you're probably going to get another call from one of the lawmakers now. It's a point because I've sent the same paperwork to all of them. I'm surprised you're not getting a call from them, but
no.
They know me.
So we work for the federal government and the Social Security Administration. They're federal, right?
Well,
So,
the senators are federal too, though. Cantwell and.
oh yeah, I guess, but yeah,
They got
their
all
own
the same
people.
paperwork, and I'm begging them to step in and intervene on my behalf. At least Cantwell did at one point, was in my case at one point, and
Yeah.
I think even the other one. I've had intervention a couple times, but they need it again.
Yeah, maybe they could notify us possibly, but they also have
They've sent it all
Capitol
over the
Police.
unit.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But I'm not with QAnon. I get accused of being with QAnon. Here I'm a liberal, freaking far left of Sanders, and I get accused of being QAnon, and that's what Bernie Krause accused me of being on, because I'm trying to get Sanders to lose, because I'm trying to get him to put what he told you in writing, and with his mouth, and he won't do it for 8 years. 2 bids as president. He won't say nothing. Trump won't say nothing. Biden won't say nothing. When are my people and my dad and my dad's dad when is somebody going to do it? This has gone on since I was a kid, since I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
When are we going to fix it? You see, Sanders can sit there and talk, we've been doing this to people 100 years, 50 years. And my issue, he keeps throwing aside for Medicare for all, and that's Jason Call for Congress. He's also a teacher at the high schools around here. He called in Hinge and also says, what is it? Med for all and single payer are his issues, and he was my local Democrat PCO who I wanted to put my issue on the table. And he told me flat out in writing, my issues are med for all and single payer, not abortion, not your issue. And I'm called a one-man issue because your issue isn't important. I'm sorry, if we can trace 25% of the opioid-related deaths back to workers' comp felling those people, then maybe we might want to address Darren's issue. If we can change gender bias, because a woman's tits are worth less than mine and your balls and workers' comp. That's gender bias. That needs to be addressed. How about the inequality that a man in Alabama gets $35,000 for an amputated arm and a guy in Georgia gets $750,000 for an amputated arm? Those are inequalities. And when you talk and cry inequality, I would like you to talk about my issue, please.
Well, Jared, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sir, I would take the bell.
Yeah, we'll do it. All right, there we go. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and have a good rest of your day. Good luck on the conference.
I'll be calm, I'll be quiet, I'll be cool.
Yeah.
Tell Bill. And Bill's still a Facebook manager. I mean, he could have just said Bill Smith and I wasn't questioned the whole nut. But at this point, when you're what's going on, all this is happening, you say, oh, I'm not going to use my name. Well, the criminal judge, if you guys do come and put me in court, is going to use their names. But when I signed my name as a certified nursing assistant as a state employee, I always had to sign my name.
Yeah.
When we fill out documents and you want my kids' documents, you want our full legal names on all the documents. But yet, when you want to extract basically money from me,
yeah, people are weird now. They don't want to.
but it is only 20,000. They're giving out more free money again in another month or two.
Details and stuff like that, especially dealing with people they don't know. So I kind of understand why people wouldn't want to share their last name, but I don't know.
Well, the judges don't get to do it, and no, you can't understand. Let me as from a lawyer's perspective, you don't get to exactly. And there's a reason we don't get to, and it's a legal standpoint. Because how can I say later down the road that it was Bill down at the office that told me this? And you say, what Bill? Well, legally, I need to go back on the document and say, well, it was Bill Thompson or Bill Johnson or whatever that told me that. Or I need a number of his that identifies him as a employee, because to just be a no-name person is what Nazis did. They were like no-name people and go and just do what they want under an assumed name. And even me or you can't go around and just pretend to be Bill or John. That's why at one point I said, Darren can't go. Could I go around and rob from you and say Darren did it? Is that okay?
Yeah. Right.
And when I go to court, can you take me to court and just say Darren did it?
No, I cannot.
There's a reason, sir. We use our full names. It's a level similar. It's part of rule of law. And see, when Bill can't understand the basic rule of law as he's trying to tell me the process for which he's trying to take money from, it's a structure. And I will try to be calm with Bill. Yes.
Well, thank you.
You guys are definitely going to be calm, because now it's almost threatening me again. To a
Well,
certain
that's
extent.
not what we want to do here. We don't want to threaten.
But Bill
like
did
that.
by calling you.
Yeah. Well, you
Bill
know,
has. Bill is using you as an instrument to intimidate me at this point in time.
and we just come out here because we want to make sure everything's cool.
I
That's all.
know, but so did the last officers, and like I said, out of all of that, they didn't present to my judge when they had a duty, an obligation by law to tell the truth as officers of the state of Washington. They did not.
Mhm.
So who's holding them and the SSDI offset unit to account, sir?
I don't know.
And nobody is, and
Yeah.
nobody ever will.
Yeah.
And that's not a good society in which other men are out to hurt and harm other men at the end of a gun, basically trying to deny me my entitlements at that point is what they were doing
Mhm.
at the end of a lawman's gun. From a worker who clearly was entitled to his stuff, or the judges wouldn't have granted it to him.
Mhm.
And you can't get your shit if you don't warrant it because it's so rigged against you from getting it to start with. People aren't cheating the system is cheating the people, and that's why this shit needs to be fixed. Sorry.
No worries. Well, keep on advocating for that, Darren.
In a nice way, in a kumbaya way.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe I'll tell you some minutes.
The peaceful way is generally the best way. So.
I do agree with that. Yes, I do, but they angst me into this, and that's what I'm saying with the conditions I got. I have obsessive compulsive disorder over this, and I'm already on it all the time. It's trying to fight for it, but when you add this another wrench into it again, 3 years after all of the dust's supposed to be settled, I got out of jail. You gave me $17,000. Okay, we're all done again. And a year later, we're back again.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right, sir.
Yeah.
It's not human. And that's why I'm saying it's inhumane, and that's why I say in that one paper I asked that this cost shifting is inhumane to me, and both the state of Washington and the federal government should pay me punitive damage in the form of $2.5 million each. And as a delusional liar, I think I should be able to put that forth, and they should be putting that forth for me, but nobody will, because I don't have nobody speaking on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, if a police officer in Seattle is going to get $5 million for his whatever beef he had, I don't know what it is. There's a beef over the riots and whatever, all that shit was going on. And that's another thing. When my protesting out of all this, have I flipped over any cop cars? Have I burned any cop cars? Have I burned any buildings? Have I destructed any personal property besides yelling and screaming threats? Yes, that's not good. But I've never left my home for any of it, ever, except when you guys come to arrest me and take me away from my family, which has happened 3 times now, which is just partly my fault, but it's also part of the mental illness part, and that's why the judges are saying, yeah. And the thing is people haven't been robbing me for my Band-Aid to start with that I was duly entitled to. None of this would ever have been going on.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
All right. Well, Darren. All right. Sorry to get you all worked up this morning.
All right, so
Appreciate your time.
and stay safe out there. I do say that, and I don't mean that in a facetious or mean way. I mean, definitely stay safe out there, because it's a fucked up world, man.
Will do. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Have a good day, sir.
one.
Thank you, guys. I do really mean that, too, because you could have been an asshole and you're not, so.
Well, I'm glad I was. Have a good one.